What's going on, guys? It's Bear here with the Scryguys, and today we're going to be doing a commander from Bloomborough. If you guys don't know this about me, one of my first EDH builds was an Enchantress deck, but that was Selesnya. Now we get to do it in, in Gruul. Let's check it out. Today we're going to be talking about Wildsear, Scouring Maw. It is a 3 and Gruul legendary creature elemental wolf. Has trample and enchantment spells you cast from your hand. Have cascade and it's a 6/6. Now if you guys don't know anything about commander players, well, one of the things that, well, I guess anybody would love free spells, right? And so for me to be able to build this guy and do it in one of the first type of decks that I built for commander is going to be really sweet. It's also going to allow me to be a lot more aggressive than I was when I was doing like Selesnya. That one was more like build up my board and hopefully I could swing it at everybody. But with this one, I get to use a lot of red cards that I really do enjoy. Now, and today our bill is going to be around $200, but you can kind of cut it down to like 150 if you need to. There's a couple of a little bit more expensive cards that I use for this build, but I wanted to build it as close to my original with, with some of the Enchantress cards in here as possible. So let's look it up. Enchantress, we have all of our enchantresses out here, as many as that we can put, right? We don't have access to the white enchantress, so but green has plenty to spare, right? So we have our Garth enchantress, which is going to be like $35 to $40 one, which you can kind of cut out to bring it down to like 150. I believe the total cost for this deck was like around 189, so it's going to be around there. Elvish Archivist is pretty sweet. It doesn't draw us as much cards, but it's still going to draw us a card whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield, and it kind of gets big if you get artifacts that come in as well. Setesian Champion, now that's one of the enchantresses that can kind of get too big and not stay on the field because it's a 5/8 or a 10/13 or something, depending on how long it stays on the field. So that one might not stick around as much as you would hope. Now we have Verdurian Enchantress, which is again one of the other OG ones that it costs, I don't know, $1 at the most. We have Adelone Blossom, which is great because it's gonna trigger our commander, and it draws a card on ETB by itself. So that's gonna be great, and it's gonna get us anything 3 or less. Enchantress Presence is a great. It's not an enchantress, but it draws us a card every time we play a enchantment, right? We have some ram spells. Now we don't have any of the 3-drop ramps because I reserved those for what you'll see right here, but we do have our 2-drops in here. Our land base is a little bit it's a little bit more modest because we don't have access to obviously dual lands or anything like that, or even these surveil lands that are sitting around $10. But we do have like the cycle lands from Amonkhet. We do have some of the tap lands that do have the land types on there, which is really great for people playing on a budget, because then all of these can all tutor those cards out and have them ready for your next turn. And then Nature's Lore and 3 visits obviously can get you just a forest that you need maybe untapped. But we're trying to focus a lot more on our enchantment ramp. So we have Utopia Sprawl, Wild Growth, Fertile Ground. We do have a 3-drop one called Overgrowth. I forgot what it's called, but the one that adds 2 mana for 3. It's a 3 mana enchantment that adds 2 green. Unfortunately, we don't have any 0-drops in here, so the Utopia Sprawl and Wild Growth won't really. You'll just be able to shuffle your deck or something like that, right? Now our commander is 6/6, and one of the main win cons for our deck is going to be smacking everybody with a large wolf. So we have cards like Thickest in the Thicket, which is great because one, it pumps up our commander with 6+1/+1 counters, but if we control the creature with the greatest or tied with the greatest power on the board, it's going to draw us 2 cards. So that's cool. Unnatural Growth is going to double our commander's power. Mainly our commander is going to be probably the biggest creature that we have in this deck, so that's great. And then Fire Emancipation, we do have other ways to deal damage, not just our commander, but we do have other creatures that are going to be able to dole out some damage. And then having a triple damager thing on the board is going to help us whittle our opponent's life counting down. So if our commander is not on the battlefield, we need other ways to cascade, right? We need other ways to get more free spells. Must have more free spells. So we have Sunbirds of Vacation and Bigger on the inside. Sunbirds of Vacation is great because it lets you dig from the top of your library according to the mana value of the casted spell from your hand and play that, and then just put everything else on the bottom. Bigger on the inside is great because, I mean, 5 mana for 2 isn't that great, but 5 mana for 2 plus a free spell makes that a little bit more better. And it's great that you can enchant this on a land or an artifact. So if you put this on a Soul Ring or something, an Arcane Signet. By the way, we don't have a lot of artifacts in here, so don't count on that, but it'd be kind of cool to just put this on Arcane Signet. But I would rather put it on a land. Lands are a little bit harder to get rid of versus Arcane Signets, but just to give us another way to cascade as well is great. We have a couple of toolboxy things that we want to do in this deck. So we have Firebrand Archer and Coruscation Mage and Cloudstone Curio. What's great was if you put the Mage and the Cloudstone Curio, if you have the mana to do it, you can make multiple versions of this Mage, and then you're going to be doling out 3, 4, 5 damage each non-creature spell that you cast. But Cloudstone Curio is mainly in here for us to bounce enchantments back into our hand. Hopefully our cheaper enchantments to play to either cascade into more spells, or if we have our enchantress out to draw more cards, keep our hands pretty full, because we're going to be trying to empty out our hand all the time, you know, put as much pressure on the board as possible. And if we have a way to keep that card engine going, that's going to be great. That's why I put it in here, and I'm happy that it's gotten reprinted a couple times so people can kind of afford it. You know, like it was $50 at one point, $50 to $80, and now it's sitting about like $7 to $10 to $12. It's much more affordable for a lot of Commander players. Protect thy neck. We want to keep our commander on the board as much as possible. One, to apply pressure to our opponents if we are able to buff it as much as possible, and 2, to keep getting these cascades. So we have Molting Skin, which is great because it's an enchantment, so it'll trigger our commander or one of our enchantresses, because when we have to return it to our hand to regenerate target creature. So honestly, sometimes I might just protect my enchantress more than my commander. That's just me though. We have Bolt Band, which is going to be a great budget version of Deflecting Swat, and Heroic Intervention, probably one of the more expensive cards in this deck. It's just a great card. You know, it doesn't matter how many times I think I've seen this card get reprinted. It's constantly around $9 to $12. So that just lets you know how good that card is. And then this is going to be our finishers, ways for us to apply the most pressure to our opponents, right? So we have Bellow, Bard of the Brambles, which is going to turn any enchantment or artifact 4 or greater into a 4/4 indestructible haste. That's also going to give them the ability to draw cards when they deal combat damage to players. It's just a nice way for us to take advantage of our 4-drop and greater 4-drop or greater enchantments into more creatures, because when this comes on, if this is not the face commander, no one's kind of like, you don't know when to expect this guy to come onto the board, right? Nylea's Colossus is great because, say we have Cloudstone Curio, we're just bouncing our like Utopia Sprawl and over Wild Growth. Our commander can get to an immeasurable amount of power, and if maybe say we only have 2 people left to deal with, we kill one person and then we Kazul's Fury somebody else. But that's really in here as like a setup. Like you have to set up for the Kazul's Fury to have our commander be 24/24 or something like that, so to really dome out the damage. And if we don't need it, it's a land, comes in tapped, whatever. I kind of feel like you can't do an Enchantress deck without some of these cards, especially Ancestral Mass, Helm of the Gods. They all buff for each enchantment or artifact. Oh no, they all buff for each enchantment on the field. Ancestral Mask obviously way more powerful because it's every enchantment on the field. Helm of the Gods is just our field. And then Runes of the Deus is great because it gives our commander double strike. So if we have Ancestral Mask and this, it's going to be dealing out, I don't know, 48 or something like that. Who knows, right? But it's a really great to have these cards to set up for the last slide that we have. Oh, sorry. Alpha Authority is going to be great because it's going to give our opponents it won't give our opponents the ability to chunk block our commander, and so we could really just power through these turns. But you're gonna be like, hey, I need more combats, and well, there's not a lot of extra combat enchantments, but there is one, and it's really great when you pair it up with a Bear Umbra. Aggravated Assault, obviously. If you guys haven't seen this, it's a 2 and a red enchantment. Pay 3 and 2 red. Untap all creatures you control. After this main phase, there is an additional combat phase, followed by an additional main phase. Activate only as a sorcery. So with Bear Umbra, it untaps all of our lands. Aggravated Assault untaps all our creatures. And then we not only do we get an extra combat, but we do get an extra main phase. So that could possibly just end the game right there if no one has any answers for it, especially if we have Alpha Authority or Swiftfoot Boots on our commander. It's kind of just game over at that point. But yeah, I was really happy with this. I've goldfished it a couple times. I'm pretty excited to build it, to be able to play this deck out and stuff and see how it goes in person. But yeah, no, this is definitely how I would build it. We have a decent amount of ramp. We have a decent amount of card draw. All the times that I goldfish this, I've never had an empty hand. You just gotta know what kind of hand to keep for it, but I think it's pretty easy to see once you've kind of tested it yourself a couple of times. But yeah, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you guys use my deck list, or share your guys' deck list on the comment section as well. I want to see everyone's version of this deck. It's not a lot of wiggle room there because obviously you want to focus on the enchantment side of it, but there's 50 to 60,000 cards in Magic, so you guys might be using enchantments that I've never even heard of, so I definitely want to check that out. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Have a good day.